You probably met someone brilliant, genuinely sharp, always the smartest person in the room, who somehow still can't get ahead financially. All the degrees, all the knowledge, and somehow still checking their bank account with a little bit of dread. Here's the uncomfortable question. What if intelligence isn't actually the thing that builds wealth? What if sometimes it's the thing standing in the way? But here's what most people don't realize. This isn't about being smart or not smart. It's about what your intelligence quietly trains you to do instead of act. So, why does being smart so often fail to translate into being wealthy? The answer isn't what you'd expect. Picture someone with a genuinely good idea, sitting at a desk covered in research, notes, and half-finished plans. They're not lazy. They're thinking, constantly. But here's what most people don't realize about smart minds. They're excellent at generating options, and surprisingly bad at picking just one. Every possible outcome gets played out in their head, again and again, until the sheer number of scenarios becomes exhausting instead of clarifying. Where a simpler mind sees two choices, a sharp mind sees 5, then 10, then 100 small variables that all seem to matter. And while all that thinking happens, days quietly pass. The plan gets more detailed. The action never actually starts. This is where everything changes, because the smarter you are, the easier it becomes to mistake thinking about something for actually doing it. Meanwhile, someone with a far simpler plan, one page, one clear next step, is already 3 steps ahead just from moving first. And that's an uncomfortable thing to notice about yourself, that your intelligence might be quietly working against you. The deeper truth is, there's often something else going on underneath all that overthinking: identity. Being the smart one becomes part of who you are. And smart people are supposed to have the right answer, not risk being wrong in public. So simple ideas, the kind that actually work, often get dismissed. Too basic, too obvious. Surely something that easy can't really be the answer. There's a quiet thought that shows up. That's beneath me. And that single sentence has quietly kept a lot of smart people broke. What happens next is even more surprising. The people willing to try the obvious, simple idea are often the ones who actually build something. And slowly, watching that happen, the identity of the smart one starts to feel less like a badge and more like a cage. It's humbling to realize that protecting your reputation for being smart might have cost you more than just admitting you didn't have all the answers. This is where everything changes, the moment you're willing to try the simple thing, even if it feels beneath you. Which brings us to another quiet trap. Smart people tend to fall in love with complexity itself. A 3-step plan feels almost suspicious. Surely building real wealth requires something more sophisticated than that. So the spreadsheet gets bigger. The model gets more detailed, and somewhere along the way, building the plan becomes more satisfying than actually using it. The deeper truth is, complexity can feel like progress, even when nothing has actually moved forward. And meanwhile, that same simple 3-step plan someone else is using, it's already producing real, measurable results. It raises an uncomfortable question. Was all that complexity actually necessary, or was it just more comfortable than taking a real risk? Sometimes the simple plan isn't simple because it's incomplete. It's simple because it's already been stripped down to what actually works. And that's only the beginning of what changes once you're willing to trust something simple. There's one more piece to this. Smart people tend to wait for certainty before they'll commit to anything. More research, more numbers, recalculating the same scenario, hoping for a version with 0 risk attached to it. Just a little more research becomes a comfortable place to live, because as long as you're researching, you can't actually fail yet. But here's what most people don't realize. While you're waiting for certainty, the opportunity itself doesn't wait with you. The truth is, certainty was never actually available. You were searching for a missing puzzle piece that doesn't exist. And the longer that search goes on, the more time quietly slips by, uncounted. This is where everything changes. Taking a step forward without having every answer first, and trusting yourself to figure out the rest along the way. And the strange thing is, clarity almost never comes before action. It comes right after, as a reward for moving anyway. Here's the deepest truth in all of this. Your intelligence was never actually the problem. It's what your intelligence has been quietly optimizing for. Smart people are trained, often from childhood, to be right, to have the correct answer. But wealth doesn't reward being right. It rewards taking action under uncertainty. Being right feels safe. Being in motion feels risky. And your brain, given the choice, will almost always pick safe. The people who build real wealth usually aren't smarter than you. They've just made peace with moving forward without a perfect map. And once you make that same peace, something shifts. Progress stops being theoretical and starts becoming something you can actually count. You stop watching other people move ahead of you and start moving right alongside them. The overwhelmed version of you, buried in notebooks and half-finished plans, becomes something you remember, not something you live in anymore. Your intelligence isn't wasted. It just finally has a partner: action. None of this means intelligence doesn't matter. It means intelligence alone was never the full equation. You don't need to become someone else to change this. You just need to let yourself act before you feel completely ready. The next simple idea you have, the one that feels almost too obvious, might be exactly the one worth trying first. Being smart got you this far. Being willing to act is what gets you the rest of the way. You were never too smart to succeed. You were just waiting for permission you were never going to get.